Ms. Harry, many thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Let's just get right into it, shall we? Reports are still emerging, and perhaps it's some time until we get a clear picture of events. But you are a local. What do you know so far?
Thanks for having me. We woke up this morning and, like she said, we heard about the explosion. And the first thing that came to our mind was, is it sabotage, or is it those threats that those groups made, to blow up pipelines? But we also have to sit back and critically look at it, because some time ago in Bukuma community, if you recall, there was a similar explosion, and that was caused by nature. So we're hoping that this same Trans-Niger Pipeline is also as a result of wear and tear and not sabotage. That's what we're also hoping for. Though the Rivers State Police Command, they've come up with a statement to say that they've arrested 2 persons who they are interrogating to actually have more information about what really happened. So that's about it. But there's a little apprehension. People are just being careful.
Right. I mean, there were also threats earlier about violence in Rivers State in light of the political crisis. Now, we don't know who did this. There have been talks about it being sabotage. But do you think this blast is connected with the ongoing crisis in Rivers State?
That's why I made reference to what happened earlier in the year, I think January or December. And that's why I'm being careful, because we don't want to start something and give flesh to maybe something that is not. So everybody's hoping that it's not what we think it is, because the political tension in Rivers State is quite high, and every act of violence could be attributed to or linked to it, but we don't want to go that route. So we're hoping that with the investigation, they will let us know if it was
Still on River State crisis and the pipeline blast at Bodo. Earlier, we're speaking to Gloria Harry, and she joins us back on Public Affairs commentator all the way from Port Harcourt, River State. Ms. Harry, we lost you there all thanks to the gremlins and the connectivity, but let's just continue. I want to ask you about solution, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a democracy and grassroots governance is important. What would you consider the solution is to what is going on in River State politically, and now the pipeline blast? Talk to us from the federal government to the local communities. What is the way out? Or rather, from the state government to the local communities?
The way out is negotiation, understanding, and peace. That's the way out. Because, like, for March, civil servants will not be paid, from what I gathered. And who is worst hit by all this political fight is the masses. The masses are those who are at the point of suffering and receiving whatever it is that the dispute is. Now, when you talk about the face-off between Siminalayi, Fubara, and his benefactor, I think both of them should realize that it's not about who is right and who is wrong. But at this point where we are, there are people who are, how will I put it, benefiting from this crisis. So they don't want this crisis to stop. And both of them should realize that when they started their political relationship, most of us were not there. And whatever led to what has happened, it's about, this is what I want, this is what you want. So I think the president should step in at this point, because if he does not step in, some unscrupulous elements could just catch in on it and cause disaster. Like we're saying, this pipeline explosion, we don't know if it's vandals that have done it or who has done what, but people are just catching in, people are trying to benefit as much as they can from what is happening. And it's not in the interest of the state, it's not in the interest of the country, because you will recall that we're an oil-producing country, and whatever affects the oil pipelines, whatever affects oil exploration and all that will affect the income of the nation. So it will not be the issue about River State, but to be a national issue. So before a law breaks, that a peace breaks in River State, I think parties should remember that there are innocent people who might just be caught in the crossfire. And President Buhari should call them again, both parties. Yes, he had intervened before now, and they say the governor did not implement most of the things they agreed on. So he should call them once again. And this time the whole world is watching. Tell the governor this is what you want him to do.
Right.
And if he fails to do it, maybe with some leaders from the state, then you can hold him responsible for whatever happens.
Right.
And the minister too should give peace a chance. We don't need this at this point. And it's unfortunate that whenever we have a minister at the federal level and we have a governor, we don't benefit from both ends. It's either you're with the minister or you're with the governor.
Right. I'm glad you bring the federal level to this in terms of, you know, a past governor of the state being a minister at the federal level, and somewhat the state seems to be suffering. At the heart of this whole issue should be the people at the end of the day. I don't think intermediators should come into this. If you are a public servant, what should be at the core of everything is the will and the goodwill of the people. But I must say thank you, Ms. Harry, for taking out the time to join us. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.